Good rainy evening to everyone. Sorry I am late. Apologies. I want to thank you guys all for the birthday love on the weekend, and I am super excited for this Saturday because it is the first of the month. So as many of you know, we do give $2,500 away on the first of every month. So at 9 a.m. we're going to knock on somebody's door, or if there's two winners, we usually do it at about 9 and 10:30. So super excited to give somebody $2,500 or half and half. So if you guys have not yet nominated somebody, please feel free to do so. They do have to live in Simcoe County, and they do have to be over the age of 18 to win. And obviously it's a rainy mess outside, and I was hoping on rollerblading a bit the next couple of weeks, but that does not look like it's happening. So that will be put off. But I will do my normal today, which is answer your guys' questions, as well as go over some happy news and real estate updates. So thank you guys for popping in. So the first question comes from Amy in Barrie. So Amy said, "Hey Kristin, I rent in Barrie and my parents live in Toronto and have a cottage in Collingwood. Should they sell the cottage now or wait for it to go up even more?" Thank you, Amy, for asking. So a lot of economists are saying different. So obviously they've never had a pandemic and they weren't here like back in the 20s or what have you. So we don't know like how COVID is going to affect it. Let's just say people get their shots and so forth and vaccinations, etc. And then they're like, oh, we don't need to live out of Toronto. We want to be back down in, the hustle and bustle and what have you. So we don't really know how it's going to affect it, but majority are saying it's going to continue to go up just because of the lack of inventory and the amount of desire basically from people wanting to either get to cottages or just different homes in general with bigger yards and bigger square footage and no condo fees, etc. So it is said that it's going to go up, but that being said, I'm listing my cottage this Friday. And it just depends, to be honest, what they want to do with that money. If they just want to have it sit in their bank account, then it's probably better to keep it as, it still continues to go up this year. But if they have other investments they want to do or do something with it, then I would suggest selling it because it is a crazy seller's market for sure. So that's good because they're not, buying something right now because that can be a bit frustrating. So thank you for asking. So I don't know if anybody's ever wanted to have like one of those tiny little houses, but maybe they didn't know where to start or whatever. So there's this British couple, and basically they bought a school bus and they put over $100,000 into that school bus, and they converted it all and obviously put a kitchen and heating in it and a shower and so forth and a king size bed. And they're raffling it off for $20 tickets. So I know that sounds crazy. So basically they're covering their $100,000 cost, plus giving a bit of extra for what they bought the bus for and to make some money. And they've already sold over $65,000 worth of these $20 tickets. So once they get to that, then they will randomly pick like a bingo style who won the bus, and all they paid was $20. So that's super cool. And of course they will do that live. So if you don't know where to start with a tiny house, then message me and I'll tell you where you can get in contact with those people. They're actually doing another bus as well. They're not going to sell the next bus. They're going to keep the next bus. They're going to travel around North America, and then they're going to use it as an Airbnb. Just a young couple. She's a nanny and he is a tattoo artist. So anyways, I thought that was cool. So next question comes from Laura in Alliston. So Laura said, "I own a home and I'm a single mom of two young boys. I want to save more to help them with schooling and housing when they're older, but find it impossible. Should I sell and rent and save more, or find more coupons, or not cut my hair, or get my nails done? How drastic should I take this?" Thank you, Laura, for asking. I personally wouldn't sell your house and rent just because it's super hard. It'll be really, really hard for you to get back into the market. So I wouldn't suggest that, just because oftentimes homes can save way faster than people can with their job and so forth. So I personally wouldn't do that. If you want to, buy things off Facebook Marketplace and whatever as opposed to new, then knock yourself out, whatever purses you're buying or clothes or shoes or what have you. If you want to do hair, cheaper, I personally haven't been to the hairdresser in 13 years and I cut my own hair and dye it. So if you want to do that, I personally don't do it for money. It's just because my cousin was doing it. She moved out east and I just never got a new hairstylist after that. I got used to it. So you could do that. But if in your home, what I personally would do is maybe you have a room that you could rent out, or you have like a back kind of part of the house maybe that you don't use, like an extra rec room, and maybe you could rent it to somebody, or you could rent out a basement, put an apartment or something. I would prefer you go that route as opposed to selling it. That's just me personally. So if you could do that, something with that, or, have less of a car payment. Maybe you have some big car that's $70,000. You could easily use a $16,000 car or something. I would rather you do that and rent out part of your home than sell your home personally. But thank you for asking. It's nice of you to be thinking of your boys, even though they're so young right now. So I applaud you for that. So the next thing was, again, I do some happy news before I do real estate. So a couple more things. So there was a 6-year-old boy, and he was with his mother, who happened to be blind, and he fell basically on the train tracks, okay? And this was all on video, which is obviously like heart-wrenching and what have you. He fell onto the train tracks. His mother's blind, has kind of figured out what's gone on, but she's screaming because she can't really get to him, but she can't see and she can't whatever. And a man jumped onto the train tracks, ran over to him, threw him up onto the platform, and then jumped himself up onto the platform like a millisecond before the train went by. And obviously that is crazy, and he saved his life, but also risked his own in the meantime. And the train company or what have you gave him 50,000. It was rupees. It was in India, which is equal to about $660. And this 30-year-old man gave half of the money to the little boy's mother, and he kept the other half for his family. He had just had a child himself. So I just thought that was, one, lovely that he saved his life, and two, that he gave half to the mother, even though it was his reward for his bravery and what have you. I just thought that was cute. So next question comes from Jenny and Barry. So Jenny said, can someone win your $2,500 mortgage rent giveaway from you if they've won something in the past? It wasn't one of your giveaways, but it was a contest. Thank you, Jenny, for asking. And yeah, they can, as long as they're in Simcoe County and over the age of 18. I don't know if you're talking about those $50 Fridays that we used to do for our cabin fever, whatever, or if it was something else, they can. So feel free to send that person in or what have you. You just have to send a video or a written submission to info@crippshomes.com and tell us who you are and who they are and why you think they are deserving of winning. And we will review all the submissions. So thank you for asking. Do I have next? I think there's one more thing before real estate, but thank you, Jenny, for asking. So, one thing before real estate is, how far would you go for somebody's last wish? So basically, there's a person that was 26 and his mom's 56. His name's Dustin, and she wanted to go to Egypt and see the pyramids, and she had cancer, stage 4 cancer, and obviously wasn't looking very good for her to do that. Now they live in Philadelphia, and she had this secret recipe or whatever for a Philly cheesesteak, and he basically ate them 2 or 3 times a week his whole growing up. So he thought, why don't we make some of these and sell them? So he's a teacher, and he sold them on Saturdays and Sundays. So he posted online a picture of him and his mom. He said, my mom wants to go to Egypt, before she passes, but I don't have the money to take her. And the first order had 94 orders in it, which he was very surprised. And then quickly via social media, a big head-end cook or whatever at some fancy restaurant in Philadelphia posted a picture with him and said, hey, reach out to this guy, order all these Philly steaks, etc. And they got basically overloaded, his whole family, and they couldn't fit all in their kitchen. And then a bunch of people donated their chip trucks or whatever, mobile food trucks and so forth for them to use. And they made $18,000 in 6 weeks. So they were able to take the mom to Egypt. So I thought that was super cute. So next we're jumping into real estate, okay? So people keep asking, is the market going to crash? Is it going to burst? Is the bubble, when's it going to happen? Implode, etc. So I'm obviously not psychic, but economists, majority are saying that it's not going to happen, and a few small minor ones are saying that there might be a blip in it, but not anything crazy. So the BOC, which is the Bank of Canada, they had their April policy meeting just recently, and basically they left their benchmark rate at 0.25, so that meant it was unchanged. So that is a good sign, obviously. They didn't raise it. They did originally, this whole pandemic, they've been saying they're going to keep the rates low until 2023, but they did say at this April meeting the other day that next year they are planning on raising the rates. Just so you guys are aware that is most likely in the pipeline for next year. So when all of these rates are so low, basically consumers, can get a higher mortgage. They can afford, more. They say, okay, I can afford 600,000 because before I could only afford maybe 500 or 480, but because the rates are so low now I can afford more. So it gives them more options of what they can purchase, and then it puts the sellers in the driver's seat because so many people want to have properties and there's just not enough properties for everybody. Even before COVID, to be honest, we had lack of inventory. So it just propels that. And then there is that, the new stress tests and so forth. So basically, if the current rate is, let's just say 2%. So I just had Scotiabank called me the other day because my mortgage was renewing, and they said, we'll give you 2.2 for 1 year, or 1.95 or something. It was 1.9 something if you do a 2 year. So let's just say we'll go off the higher one of the 2.2. If with this new rate thing, I'd have to get approved 2% higher. So I have to get approved at 4.2 with my debt to service ratio. So I don't actually have to pay 4.2. It just means I have to approve. So all of my debt to service ratios have to make sense at that higher percentage. And your debt to service ratio means how much you make versus how much you're spending. So you make X amount of dollars, but then you have your car payment, maybe you have OSAP, you have your mortgage or your rent, you have your utilities, you have your phone bill, you have your debt such as your credit cards, you might have child support, etc. So they look at all of that. So you have to approve in their debt to service ratios with the 2% extra. However, it is only for people doing uninsured mortgages. So insured mortgages are less than 20%. So if you're putting more than 20% down, these are the people that it's going to affect, not if you're putting less than 20% down, which is majority of people. Also, if your mortgage is over $1 million, they're going to do this new 2% stress test to you. Also, if you want an amortization rate of over 25 years, so if you want it to be stretched over 30 years, etc., they're going to do this 2% to you, as well as if you're refinancing your home, they're going to do it to you, okay? So that's that. So basically, it affects people 4 to 6% if they are one of those people in the uninsured mortgages. So say, for example, they were approved for 800 before, now they're going to be approved for in between 758 and 765, okay? So basically, there's obviously a whole bunch of different people that are kind of having their hand in the pot, so to speak. So there's economists, and there's presidents of banks, there's chief strategy officers, and so forth. And some of them are saying, hey, let's have, Ottawa step in and put some extra rules in and tighten things up because the market's going so crazy in real estate. And others say, no, just let the extra inventory come in and it'll help balance things out naturally. So one person, for example, one person said that they want to make it mandatory that no offers can be firm. It can't be firm, has to be conditional on financing. So that's what one person's trying to push for. Another person's trying to push for like a watchdog, which means that if something goes crazy over asking, it's listed $799, it sells 1.2 or something crazy like that. They want to have somebody like reviewing those files. And then the other person just said, well, we have to have more supply. Well, that's really easy to say as opposed to do it. So that doesn't really make sense. So it's really hard, obviously, for them to see a crash in the market when there's so much demand and so little inventory. So they still don't see a crash happening. And as for supply, like I said, that one person said, oh, we should have more supply. Since March 1st, not since March 1st, in March in 2021 in all of Ontario, there's over 80,000 new builds that were started, 80,660 to be honest, or to be exact, I should say. And since January of this year, there has been over 200,000 new builds started. So at least the inventory they're trying to, build, obviously 200,000 units is a lot of properties. Majority of people are still like getting rid of, say, their 600 square foot condos in Toronto, or their 725 square foot condos in Toronto, or what have you, and they're going either north, east, or west and buying larger pieces of property. They have a den now, they have an extra bedroom, they have a garage that maybe they didn't have, they just had a whatever carport or something like that. So majority are still doing that, but the problem is they're then outbidding the locals. So people, they're like, oh, that house is worth 400, and the people are coming from Toronto and they're like, oh, I'll give 720. So that's what's making the market a bit crazy, and everything's selling like hotcakes. So a lot of people have said, myself included, that it's quite similar to 2017. However, it is even more than 2017, and the market has never seen this kind of increase in Ontario, let alone in Canada, that it's seen in 2021. And so not only have prices soared in Ontario, they've also soared, in the east and west and so forth, and not just in cities. So not just Vancouver, not just Toronto, not just Montreal. To be honest, those actually haven't gone up as much as rural places. And the main thing, there's two main things that have gone up, but the first one is cottages, okay? So cottages have gone up crazy. whether it's, just for the summer months and somebody just wants to go up there, or they want to Airbnb it, or they take their kids there or whatever, or they want to live there full time because they realize they can work from home and so forth. Just super popular. And when I say cottages, it could be waterfront, but it also could just be like an A-frame property in the mountainside. Okay, it's just like not your typical home. Okay, so cottages have gone up huge, and it's expected that this will continue to happen in 2021 as well as 2022. How much have they gone up? So Kawartha Lakes, for example, which is on the east side of Lake Simcoe. I'm on the west side of Lake Simcoe, for example. So non-waterfront homes, the amount of properties that have sold, not the amount dollar-wise that they've gone up, but the amount of properties that have sold has gone up over 87%. So 87.8% over last year, which is crazy. The waterfront homes have gone up 223.1%, again, ludicrous. The average sales price jumped over 44% to 606, and that's non-waterfront homes. And then the waterfront homes jumped over 64% to 872, which is crazy. Now, Georgian Bay, which obviously is, not obviously, but it is northwest of Barrie, for example, and spans quite a large region. So it could be, Penetanguishene, Midland, Victoria Harbor, etc. Their sales have gone up over 106%, and their average sales price has gone up over 43%. Sunshine Coast, like I'm saying, east and west, not just Ontario. BC, their number of homes sold has gone up over 82%, and the average sales price is up over 43%. And PEI, even, for example, their average sales price, not average sales price, the amount of homes sold has gone up over 81%, and their average sales price is up over 21%. It's still super cheap, though, to be honest, in PEI. $330,121 is their average price, to be honest. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, besides cottages, like I said, that was the main thing that is hot to trot, so to speak. The other thing is single family homes that have extra space, so people can do the homeschooling, so people can do a home gym, so people can have their home office, they can have a bigger property for the kids, more room for them to run around, etc. Those are the two main things, okay? Hi, Wendy, how are you? Hope all is well. Okay. Oh yeah, so there was somebody at the Financial Post, and they said, cottage country is the new battleground. So it is crazy because everybody is just like, can't take my kids to Wonderland. I can't take my kids to Great Wolf Lodge. It's, odd for kids. Obviously it's odd for adults too, but more for kids that they don't understand. So they want them to have some kind of normalcy. So tons of them are buying cottages. So cottages are still super, super popular. Why still are majority people moving north from Toronto or east or west? Just because basically more bang for your buck, right? You're getting bigger square footage, newer properties, less, not necessarily less taxes because Toronto has cheap taxes, but newer homes, bigger square footage, bigger yards, and cheaper price tags, okay? So that is the main reason. We still have that extreme lack of inventory, just the amount of immigrants that have come over in the past few years. And before COVID even happened, we had lack of inventory. So then you add extra people wanting to move and people wanting to realize that their home doesn't fit, their lifestyle during COVID, and they can work from home and they don't need to live in the city. It just snowballs into a massive amount. And then also because of the age of baby boomers and then the age of the baby boomers kids who are all at that age of like buying their first home or maybe their second home, etc. There's just way too many people wanting to buy and not enough inventory, okay? So basically, houses that were selling, say 3 years ago or what have you for $725,000 or $750,000 are going around $1 million. So that is the norm, not just, like I said, Vancouver, Toronto, etc. It is more rurally. So as different from the past, Vancouver and Toronto actually haven't gone up. They've been teetering 11 to 18% going up, whereas elsewhere has been going up like 32%, 39%, 47%, etc. So rurally has actually had a way larger jump than Toronto or Vancouver, which is odd because that is not our normal. So they did this whole survey thing, and it rated like job availability, crime, taxes, healthcare, not healthcare, but health facilities, community centers, weather, etc. And the number one place they said to live in Canada was Halifax. So that won number one. The most affordable place in Ontario, so not about crime and all that, but just most affordable. They checked 415 cities throughout Canada for the one that found Halifax, and then Ontario, to be honest, I don't know how many they checked. But the most affordable was Elliott Lake. And Elliott Lake is 5.5 hours northwest of Toronto. And the average sales price is $122,000 and change. And you can get a basically mansion on a lake, with a gorgeous view for less than a bachelor condo in Toronto. So if you want to make the drive 5.5 hours, you are welcome to do so. In Barrie and Simcoe in the past 24 hours. So in Barrie specifically in the past 24 hours, there's been 25 new listings. Of those 25 new listings, 7 have conditionally sold, 15 sold firm. 13 people got their keys, so it means that they bought previously and then they got the keys to their property. 1 person did a price reduction and 6 people canceled and relisted. Now, if you've watched these in the past, you would notice that I didn't normally say conditional. So normally there wasn't any time I said conditional. Basically, they all just went firm. But of the 25 new listings, 7 of them went conditional and 15 sold firm. Whereas before we weren't seeing conditional at all, and I wasn't even telling you guys conditional because it wasn't anything in the statistics. Now there are some that are going conditional. So let's just say somebody listed $599 before and then they got 7 or $725 firm. Now some people are like, I don't like that. It's annoying. It's frustrating, especially them as a buyer seeing it. So they're like, I'm just going to list at $719 or $725 or what have you. So then they're getting conditional offers, finance inspection, because they're not getting the bidding war. So that's what's happening now more so. Not more so, but I'd say maybe 15% of the people listing are doing it that way. And then the 85% are still doing the low and hold, seems to be the normal. Barrie, in the last 7 days, there was 60 new listings. Of those 60 new listings, 3 were back on the market. So it meant that they had a deal fall apart, but they came back on. So 57 were actually completely new. 23 of those went conditional. Again, if you watched this a few weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, etc., I never said anything about conditional because there was never any conditional ones. So 23 of those 60 went conditional, 78 went firm, and obviously 23 plus 78 is 101, which is more than the 60 that got listed. That meant it had to tap into last week's extra, the week before's extra, etc., because there's still not enough inventory to make all the people that are still purchasing, okay? 48 people got keys in the last week in Barrie. 2 people increased their price. 2 people decreased their price. And 25 people canceled their listing and relisted. Barrie condos in the last 7 days. There was 13 new listings. 2 of them were were back on the market. Something fell apart on them, maybe no finance, etc. 10 of them conditionally sold. 12 of them sold firm. And 13 people got their keys. 1 person increased their price and 1 person decreased their price. And then in ESSA, in the last 7 days, there were 9 new listings. 1 went conditionally sold. Again, I would have never said conditional before on past weeks like these. 19 went firm. So there's only 9 new listings and 19 went firm. Obviously, not enough inventory. And again, going into past weeks. 8 people got their keys. 1 person increased their price and 2 people canceled and relisted. In Innisfil, there was 18 new listings in the past week, and 9 of them got conditional offers. 21 sold firm. So obviously there's 30, but only 18 were new. So again, going into past weeks and taking old inventory, selling old inventory that was still sitting there. 7 people got their keys. 2 people suspended their listing, and 7 people canceled their listing. And in Oro Medonte, so in between Barrie and Aurelia more so, there was 14 new listings, 1 conditionally sold, 15 sold firm, and 6 people got their keys. 2 people decreased their price and 3 people increased their price. And in Springwater in the last week, there was 14 new listings. 1 came back on the market, 1 conditionally sold out of the 14, and 11 sold firm. So not all of the inventory got used up in Springwater. 2 people got their keys and 1 person increased their price. So the next question comes from Mark and Jill and Angus. So Mark and Jill and Angus, we have our home listed right now with a family friend, and offers are this Friday. My in-laws brought something up that I'd like your opinion on if you don't mind. What if there is an offer for $700, for example, with a $3,000 deposit, and one for $695 with a $100,000 deposit? Should we take less and get a higher deposit, and how important is it really? Thank you, Mark and Jill, for asking. So basically what the deposit is doing is showing the sincerity of the person's offer. So if, for example, the closing was September 1st, okay, assuming that's not a weekend or a holiday, and they only put $3,000 down, and on September 1st, they're MIA, they've disappeared, you don't know what happened to them, and they're just basically gone off the face of the earth, you only have $3,000 You can take them to court, blah, blah, blah. Before COVID, it was like 2 to 3 years to get them to court. So with COVID, I have no idea how long it would be to get them to court. But basically, you're left holding the bag with $3,000. You might have gone on to buy another home. And it's like a domino effect because now you don't have the money from your house, so you can't buy that house. They probably bought another house, etc. And it's just a big mess. Whereas the 100,000, if they walk away, one, they're going to be way less likely to walk away. And two, at least you have the 100,000, as cushion. To be honest, it doesn't get released to you right away. It still has to go through the system, but people are way less likely to walk away from that amount of money as opposed to $3,000. Usually a normal deposit on 700,000, you mentioned that price, 700,000, would be more like 10,000. I'd say to 25,000, that is a lot more common. You'll get the odd person that might put 50 or really odd that might put 100, but usually it's going to be, 10,000, 15,000, etc. So if they were that close, I would just see if the higher person could, put a higher deposit. But otherwise, if your closing is really long, to be honest, I would take the lower and have the higher amount. But if the closing date was really, really soon, it's so soon, even if they did walk away, you could just relist it, but if you're going to tie it up for a long time, then I would personally take the lesser in that example that you gave. So thank you for asking. Okay, so I'm on to my news again. So not all frat boys are, binge drinkers and keg stand people. There was a fraternity in Louisiana called Phi Delta. And basically this lady had worked for them in their kitchen for 14 years and she made minimum wage. And the frat guys found out that she had 2 jobs. So this was 30 years after she had worked for them, okay? So now these frat brothers or whatever are parents, some of them are grandparents, etc. She's now 74. She still works 2 jobs, cleaning and cooking, because she can't afford to retire. And so they heard this and they all basically chipped in and they paid off her mortgage, which was super cute. I thought it was like $46,000 her mortgage remaining. And so they surprised her on her 74th birthday and paid off her mortgage. So not all frat boys are the stereotype that you may think. The next question comes from Greg in Elmvale. So Greg in Elmvale says, I have a daughter taking her real estate license right now. When she's done, she wants to quit her job cold turkey and do it full time, but I imagine it would be better to slowly get into it, would it not? Thank you, Greg, for asking. I would, slowly get into it. If she can keep some form of income to help pay her mortgage or her rent or what have you, I would suggest that. I was in it for quite some time, to be honest, before I got rid of my other jobs. But I don't know if she's living at home, for example, with you and she doesn't have rent, or she has really small payments or whatever. It kind of depends how much money she needs to survive. I didn't have like a spouse to help me pay stuff or whatever, so I obviously needed to pay my mortgage and so forth, so I still need to have my other jobs. So it takes quite a while to build up a database and so forth. So I would not suggest quitting her job cold turkey, so she can build up that clientele and just do it when she can, as opposed to suddenly being like, how am I going to put gas in my car, etc. So I agree with you, and I would not quit cold turkey. Okay, so again, news. What would you think if you basically went into a dollar store every day and were stealing? Most people would think, you go to jail or you get arrested or something. However, what happened in this dollar store in the States was they got a new home. It wasn't they as in a person, it was a dog. There was a stray dog and he kept coming into the store and there was like a purple unicorn, and I don't know why he liked this purple unicorn, and he would take it and go outside, and they kept like taking it back from him, chasing him around the store, and he'd always come back in and get it again. So eventually they called like the Humane Society or what have you, and they came and got him. But the person that came to get him, the officer or whatever, was a woman, and she bought the stuffy for him, and he's now been adopted into a home with his new stuffy. And once the story got more press, the dollar store donated a bunch of the purple unicorns. So I thought that was cute of the dog and the people to donate. So the next question, I have one more thing before a question. So our mortgage giveaway, so on the 1st of the month, this is this Saturday, you can nominate anybody in Simcoe County. They have to be over the age of 18 and they have to, like I said, live in Simcoe County, and we'll surprise them with a $2,500 check. It could go towards their mortgage or their rent or whatever they want. And yeah, just say who you are, who they are, send it to info@crippshomes.com. Again, info@crippshomes.com. It could be a video or it could be written submission if you're shy. And then we will surprise somebody live on this Facebook at 9 a.m. on Saturday. And if there's 2 people, we usually do 9 and 10:30 because sometimes we do 2 people on Saturdays depending on the entries, okay? So next question comes from Candace in Barrie. So Candace said, I know you guys used to always advertise about buying people's homes if it didn't sell, but I don't see you advertising that anymore. Is that not something you offer anymore? Thank you, Candace, for asking. We do still offer that, but because the market's so crazy, most people are not concerned that their home won't sell. They just want to make sure that they don't sell it for not enough money. They don't obviously want to leave any money on the table when it's usually their biggest investment of their entire life. But we do still have that. For example, we had somebody recently that said like, hey, if we don't get an offer that we like, what will you offer us? So we, gave them agreement of purchase and sale showing what we would offer them. So they're like, at least we have a backup because they don't want to be stuck holding 2 homes, paying 2 mortgages. So they felt better about that. Most people realize that their property will sell. It's just they want to know, does it make sense for us to sell? Like if it's going to sell for $830 and we thought it was going to sell for $950, it won't make sense for us on the other end or whatever. So usually they just want to know that, but we do still have that guarantee. We also have a guarantee that if people buy their next property for a year that they're happy with it. And if they're not happy with it, we will sell it for free or buy it back. So let's just say they think it's a sketchy neighborhood and it turns out to be a sketchy neighborhood, or they think the train's going to bother them or not going to bother them, but it does, and they change their mind. We will sell it for free or buy it back from them. Okay. But thank you for asking. Okay, so there was a lady that was 72 and she wasn't doing very well. Basically, she wasn't going to make it to her 73rd birthday. And she told her kids that she just wanted some broccoli tempura from her favorite restaurant. The problem was her favorite restaurant was like 8.5 hours away. She lived in Vermont and the restaurant was in Baltimore where her kids lived. So her kids contacted the restaurant and basically said, this is our mother's dying wish. We'd like to pick up the takeout at this time. We're going to drive it there, etc. And the people remembered her because basically anytime she went to see her kids, that's where she always asked to go. So they remembered her specifically. So they ended up, 2 of the chefs heading down there. They put like a barbecue grill in the back of their truck and blah, blah. Put it all out in her driveway, cooked for her in the driveway, and made her whole meal, not just the broccoli, but all of her favorite things. So I just thought that was cute because, again, I like anything different and kind and giving back. So that was nice and lovely of that restaurant when I'm sure they're dealing with lots of hardships themselves and COVID and so forth. Anyways, this stays on here if you guys want to check out the real estate statistics that I went over. I will be doing a bunch of lives this weekend at our listings, or I will be back here next Wednesday, or the $2,500 giveaway this Saturday at 9 a.m. if you guys want to pop in and see who won or nominate somebody or all of the above. Thank you and stay safe.